Alright, before I start this off, I just want to say that this video has nothing to do with the quality of Ghostbusters. You may like it, you may hate it, I haven't seen it. So now that's out of the way, as is the whole controversy surrounding the movie. So let's talk about the lead up to this film's release. It was insane.
A lot of these guys, who...
Terrific fellas!
Yeah, who seem to have, I don't know, maybe very empty lives, are upset because they say, oh, well, we can't have female Ghostbusters.
Long story short, all the gender wars and politics over this film were really pointless. And even though the film is still in theaters, let's be honest, nobody cares anymore already. Leading up to Ghostbusters' actual release, after a mess of a marketing campaign, box office analysts had two theories as to how the film would end up. Either the public would be turned off by the fighting and stay the hell away from the theater, or hordes of women would go see a film they may not have originally wanted to, so they could support a cause in a way they had been told was helpful. The results? Kind of in the middle. The film landed right in its expected $40 to $50 million range for its domestic opening weekend, with an extra $19 million or so in its first few international markets. Those aren't bad results. In fact, that's the biggest domestic opening for both director Paul Feig and the film's 4 stars. And the film is still trucking along. It's gotten well past the century mark domestically, and should have no problem reaching 200 million worldwide in the next week or two. This again is in line with expectations for a Paul Feig comedy starring these actresses. So what's the problem? Well, this article on vulture.com says it all. Or more specifically, Paul Feig himself states, a movie like this has to at least get to like 500 million worldwide, and that's probably low. Wait, what? Who realistically expected that even with a brand this well known, a controversial Ghostbusters reboot would make $500 million? And that's how we come across Hollywood's biggest problem, at least in recent years. When you adjust for inflation, the budgets of the first 2 Ghostbusters films was around $65 million each. That means that the cost of both those movies combined is less than $144 million, which was the budget for the reboot. $200 million worldwide on a $65 million budget would have made Ghostbusters a solid hit, if not the franchise starter Sony really wants and really needs. It's not like Feig couldn't have made Ghostbusters cheaper. His last film, Spy, cost $65 million too. As it stands, Sony could very well lose a lot of money on this film. And Sony is not the only major studio dealing with this. Paramount has screwed themselves over even more, giving their Star Trek Beyond $185 million for their budget, when neither of its current era predecessors reached $500 million worldwide. Hell, in a year when so many sequels are failing and failing hard, through the looking glass anyone? Jason Bourne is barely going to get by because Universal skimped a bit with its $120 million budget. To be fair, that is less than the adjusted budget for the last Matt Damon Bourne movie. So, is there any hope for these films yet? Well, Ghostbusters has a little more to go stateside, and hasn't yet opened in France, Japan, and Mexico, which are 3 major foreign markets. At the end of the day, it may not lose that much money, but I don't think Channing Tatum's Ghostbusters is a good idea after this mess either. What is the lesson Hollywood has to learn here? Simple. Keep your budgets at a sensible level. When Dawn of Justice smashes records and is still seen as a disappointment, there is a major problem. There's only so much money people will pay each year for the movies. And if the studios are going to put these blockbusters out one after another, they have to be realistic about how much they will actually make before the money train passes them by. Horror movies have figured this out already. Even something like Central Intelligence, which New Line was able to bring in at a reasonable cost, and thus they made a profit with these smaller numbers. Obstacles spur creativity, so making it tough for filmmakers to spend all the money will force them to come up with new ideas of how to make their films great. It will also help more than an absolute minority of blockbusters make their money back. Your James Bond movie does not need to cost $300 million. So, that's my thoughts for the day. Don't forget to comment below so we can all continue this discussion. Thank you.